This is Miss Noel from Falcon Ridge Elementary. I'm here today to navigate you through a virtual field trip. We're going to look at our choice board and start with understanding what to do with a virtual field trip in Discovery Education. Our virtual field trip will come from box 9 from your choice board, and it is over the life cycles of the Darkling beetle and a cricket. First of all, you must be logged into Discovery Education through your student portal before clicking on this link. So we're going to go to the internet and we're going to search huffmanisd.net. Then you will click on Students to access your student portal. And if you are not logged in, you will log in with your computer username and password. The password is your lunch number. Then you will go to your Discovery Education tile. And if your teacher has assigned you that virtual field trip, it would be located on your home screen. But we are going to access it through the link. So now we can click on the bit.ly link and it should get us into the virtual field trip. Okay, so today we're going to be learning about complete versus incomplete metamorphosis. The purpose is to determine the differences in the life cycle of a darkling beetle and a cricket. We will also determine the difference in incomplete metamorphosis and incomplete metamorphosis. We will be conducting research through this virtual field trip. You will research with the goal to find and illustrate the life cycle of a darkling beetle. Be sure to include the words complete metamorphosis in the title of your illustration. So an illustration means to draw. So you're going to pause this video, get a notepad and a pencil, and draw the life cycle of the darkling beetle and the cricket as we go along. Find and illustrate the life cycle of a cricket as well, and that's going to be shown in the video on the right. I will be, my video will be showing, so you'll see my face in a little bit. Be sure to include the words incomplete metamorphosis in the title of your illustration. Note the differences and similarities between complete and incomplete metamorphosis as you go along. Here's our first video.
It's estimated that there are millions of different kinds of insects on the planet. Insects have fascinating life cycles. You compare. Compare the appearance of these two living things. They look very different from each other. One is worm-like, and the other has legs and looks like an insect. It may seem hard to believe, but they're actually the same insect, just at different stages in their lives. Insects, and many other animals, go through a series of distinct changes called metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is the process of an animal changing form. We generally refer to these different forms as stages. Insects such as moths, butterflies, bees, and flies go through a type of metamorphosis called complete metamorphosis. In complete metamorphosis, an adult insect lays eggs. The eggs hatch into a worm-like larva. Sometimes the larvae are called caterpillars, maggots, or grubs. After several days, weeks, or months, these organisms develop a pupa. A pupa is sometimes called a cocoon. Inside the pupa, a adult structures begin to form. When the changes are complete, the pupa splits open and the adult emerges. Incomplete metamorphosis does not involve as many stages as complete metamorphosis. Insects such as grasshoppers and termites, for example, undergo incomplete metamorphosis. In incomplete metamorphosis, an egg, laid by the female, hatches into a nymph. The nymph looks similar to an adult insect, but is smaller and not as fully developed. Usually, the nymph goes through a series of molts as it grows larger and begins to more closely resemble an adult. After many weeks or months, the nymph becomes an adult with the ability to reproduce. These are just a couple of examples of insect life cycles.
Now, how do you think that the life cycles of a darkling beetle and a cricket differ? We're going to discover that in our next video. So I hope that you were able to draw some illustrations of the beetle's life cycle from the last video. Here we go with the next one. And this is an interactive life cycle of a cricket or a grasshopper. The grasshoppers are closely related to crickets. The following picture shows the life cycle of a grasshopper through the 3 stages of incomplete metamorphosis. Stage 1 is the egg, stage 2 is the nymph, and 3 is the adult. There's no pupal stage, unlike the insects such as butterflies and moths, and our darkling beetles. We're going to mouse over the pictures to learn more. So we're going to start in the first stage of a life cycle, which is the egg. The female grasshopper lays a mass of eggs in a hole in the ground. It then covers the eggs with a sticky substance which hardens and forms a protective waterproof pod around the eggs. After about 2 weeks, the nymph emerges, and that's our baby grasshopper. The nymph or young grasshopper looks like a small adult grasshopper, but it has no wings. It lives in the same habitat and eats the same food as an adult. As it grows, the nymph molts or changes its skin several times, growing a new exoskeleton, which is an outside shell, hard shell that supports its body, each time, and gradually developing wings. After 4 to 7 weeks, it will molt several times and become an adult. The hind legs of a grasshopper are long and powerful. The upper section, called the femur, has very strong muscles. The lower part, called the tibia, has sharp spines at the end. When a grasshopper prepares to jump, it digs the spines into the ground, brings the tibia and femur together, then it straightens its legs and shoots forward like a released spring. Some species of grasshopper can jump more than 100 times their length. Then the life cycle will start all over again after the adult reproduces. Here's our other video. And you'll be seeing me in this video.
Hello, girls and boys. This is Miss Noelle from Falcon Ridge Elementary. I'm here to talk to you today about the life cycle of cricket. We're going to start with our egg phase. So here we go. Watch the surface. Knock it off, and you can barely see those eggs rise. There are our eggs, and it's really hard to find pictures of cricket eggs because they're so tiny. This is week 2. They've emerged from the egg phase, and now they are called nymphs. That basically means a baby cricket. There's our first baby cricket. Now we're going to speed through the remainder of this video, and we getting larger. Still larger. And now they are getting very large. You can tell right here that these crickets are actually in what phase? Can you tell? Okay, they look like they're adults, but let's go to another clip in our video. So right here, you can see that they look a little different. These are actually the adults. We can tell that they're adults because they have wings, and we can see that they have this reproductive organ sticking out the back. Here in a second, you're going to learn how you can tell the difference in males and females. Here it is. So, the one with the long spike, these are females. So let's see. We can tell that this is a female adult cricket. She has wings and a very long spike. So, we can also tell that these are adults because you can hear the chirping sound. Only of the adults make the chirping sound because they have the wings. The wings are actually rubbed together to make that chirping sound, which helps with their reproductive cycle. They rub their wings together to attract a mate. All right, happy learning. I hope you enjoyed learning about
the life cycles of the cricket.
Hello, girls and boys.
And we're going to go back to our virtual field trip. We've already done the interactive life cycle of a grasshopper, and now I would like for you to look closely at the pictures below to note any differences that you notice in the life cycles of the two insects. If you haven't already drawn your illustrations, here are some examples that you should have collected as you've gone through your virtual field trip. And you can pause the video if you need more time to draw your life cycle stages. Then you can watch the conclusion link. So we have the conclusion about the life cycles of a darkling beetle and a cricket. Watch this video to see if your hypothesis was correct.
Hello, this is Miss Noel from Falcon Ridge Elementary. I'm here to talk to you today about complete versus incomplete metamorphosis. We'll start with complete metamorphosis and a darkling beetle. Stage 1 is the egg. It is about 2 millimeters across. That's very tiny and about the size of the tip of your pinky nail. Stage 2 is the larva. This is also known as the mealworm. And much like the very hungry caterpillar, they love to eat. In our lab, we typically feed them oatmeal and apple slices. Stage 3 is the pupa. Sometimes it's called a cocoon, and the mealworm is transforming into a very different stage. They don't move much until they're ready to emerge from the pupa in their adult form. Stage 4, which is the final stage, is the adult. When it emerges from the pupa, it comes out looking very light. Then as it grows older, it turns into a much darker color. And then at the end of its life cycle, it's almost black. Next, for incomplete metamorphosis, we'll be looking at the cricket. Stage 1 is the egg. As you can tell, the egg is pretty small in comparison to the inning. Stage 2 is the nymph. You can see that there are no wings yet on the cricket, and we cannot see a reproductive organ as well. Stage 3 is the final stage of a cricket's life cycle, and it is an adult now. It now has wings and this long reproductive spike. This identifies this cricket as a female. That spike or tube is how she lays her eggs. So to recap and review what all we've discussed today, let's look. Can you identify the different insects? How are they alike and how are they different? So the insect on top has how many stages? Yes, it has 4 stages. How about that insect on bottom? How many stages does it have? It actually has 3 stages. This stage, the second stage that was labeled as a nymph, is still a nymph. So it technically only has 3 stages. The second, third stage, they're not really too different. So we give this a very special name. We'll cover it at the very end of our discussion. So as you guessed, the insect on top was a darkling beetle. How about that means the insect on bottom has to be, that's right, it was a cricket. What about the different types of metamorphosis? What type of metamorphosis did the darkling beetle go through? You guessed it, it was complete metamorphosis. How about the metamorphosis of the cricket? That's right, it was an incomplete metamorphosis. I hope you enjoyed our lesson. Thanks.
Okay, and we're returning to our virtual field trip. So the difference between the darkling beetle's life cycle and the crickets is that the darkling beetle goes through complete metamorphosis and the cricket goes through incomplete metamorphosis. Complete metamorphosis has 4 distinctly different stages: the egg, larva, pupa, and adult. Incomplete metamorphosis has 3 phases: the egg, nymph, and adult. The last 2 stages are very different. That is why we call it or very similar. That is why we call it incomplete metamorphosis. Both life cycles are alike in that they both have an egg and they both have an adult form. You need to record your conclusion in your own words and submit your illustration as well to your teacher. If you need a little more clarification, click on this link and watch the video to see if your hypothesis was correct. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that it helped you to be able to tell the difference in complete and incomplete